Broadcasting from New York, New York. It's Grant's Rants, Hollywood Talk.
We're weighing in on the OC and Salt Lake City Housewives. From Kelly Dodd to Mary Cosby. Hashtag Free Britney comes to FX. Jeopardy producers hate on Katie Couric. And resident idiot Piers Morgan slams the late Larry King. Chloe Rhys rejoins the Rants. Let the ranting begin. I am joined virtually by my LA friend. She's a creative director at a digital ad agency, and she's been on the podcast a couple times. Please welcome back Chloe Rhys. Hello, welcome back.
Hello, Grant. Thank you so much for having me back.
It's good to hear from you.
One of my resolutions for 2021 is to finally start my own podcast. Not like the world needs another one, but if I ever do get that up and running, I would love for you to be my first guest.
Oh, I'd love to do it. I love guesting on shows, and it's like the invitations don't come as often as they used to these days, and I have something to say, so I'd love to support you. Let's get started with a few topics on the podcast. First of all, how are things in LA?
Well, surprisingly, it rained yesterday, and as you know, that is like everything stops when it rains in LA. Mm-hmm. It's always fun, I guess, to be on the other side where a day that it rains is like a special occasion. I used to live on the East Coast and in Europe where, most days it does rain and a sunny day is a special occasion. So it's fun to be on the other side of that. But other than that, LA is, still pretty much in total lockdown. We wearing masks everywhere. It's become kind of the epicenter of COVID at the moment. So, it's not the most fun atmosphere. Everything's still closed from gyms, restaurants. So, I've pretty much just been in my house taking walks around the neighborhood and, looking forward to the occasional grocery shopping trip as my one kind of social experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I heard the other day they were saying, and going to the grocery store, that's not super essential. That's not something you should be doing weekly. And I'm like, oh, really? How can you tell people they can't go how are you going to shame people when they go to Trader Joe's to buy dinner for themselves?
It's all I got. Yeah.
I mean, then you're like, just send someone who's like lower risk in your household. I was like, again, what if you live with one or no people? Like, there's no options here. I don't want to hear like all these like tips and tricks for beating COVID when it's like, when you're on your own, like there's no way around it. Ugh. There's no answer here. There's no tips and tricks. Let's just wrap this up, please. That's my rant on that. A quick one, a baby rant. Let's get into our first story. Chloe, I know you're a Housewives viewer. It's kind of all that we have right now. Let's talk about the Real Housewives of Orange County. Now, I have been screaming about this for months. Everybody knows I have not watched it. It's not because of Kelly Dodd. In fact, like kind of the opposite, which I'll get into in a minute. But like, it's just like I don't recognize the show anymore. But I decided I was going to watch the reunions, and I said, you know what? I'll watch the reunions. That's gonna fill in enough blanks for me. There wasn't that much that happened. It was a short season, and I didn't realize there was only like one part, and then there's a second part, and that's it. So it was a great season for me to skip, I think. But I did watch the first part of the reunion. Did you catch it?
Yes, I certainly did. I unfortunately put myself through a lot of torture watching this entire season, and I feel like you were right to just watch the reunion because the little clip packages they had was pretty much all you needed to know about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little lost with the new girl, Elizabeth, but then, because, the first thing they said about Elizabeth was she was, like, a big liar, and then I'm like, okay, and then I liked that she was, aggressive with Bronwyn. I think Bronwyn needs a reality check, and I definitely think that she is addicted to fame. We talked about it last week on the podcast, the paparazzi, the makeup-free photos, going to the sex shop on a Sunday afternoon. Now, I don't know how much time you've spent in Orange County, but there is no paparazzi in Orange County. None.
No, yeah. I don't know. I can't imagine they would drive all the way down there and then suddenly just happen upon Bronwyn Windenburg. I actually loved in one part of the reunion when Shannon mentions that I guess Bronwyn and her husband said to her that one of their favorite things to do is to go out and get recognized. That just came off so creepy. I guess, yeah, I'm not famous. I don't know what that's like. And I can't imagine being in the situation where you just go out of your house and get recognized for kicks. But I don't know. It came out very strange and creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed early on with Bronwyn, like I followed her in the beginning before it was even announced she was on, because I wanted to see like the Instagram and like how it was going to be building over time. I just wanted to see the social impact. And, when the show premiered, she commented back to every single person. And I was like, who has time for that? That seemed like an odd thing to me. I mean, especially like just thinking about some of these more seasoned housewives, like they don't even care about social media, some of them. So it was odd that she was so into it. I feel like it's easy to get sucked into. Fame is a drug. Some people have said that forever. And if she has an addictive personality, it sounds like she's in it deep.
Yeah, it definitely does. That was something that she mentioned as well, that she isn't just an alcoholic, but, could get addicted to fame or drugs or anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of sad. And it is just very confusing to me that someone who has more children than I could ever even count on one. Well, yeah, more than you can count on one hand would have the time to even respond to one comment on Instagram.
She even commented back to me when I was saying, I just made a remark like, it's kind of a shame that the interviews aren't done like in the kitchens anymore, the women's living rooms. And she wrote back a big long thing. She's like, and I appreciate it, but like, again, who has the time? She was like, oh yeah, I mean, that would be terrible with all the kids and all the ambient noise. Like I'd so much rather be in a studio, but I don't know. There's something about interviewing the women in their homes that just felt so much more authentic to me as a viewer. But that is out the window now. Now it is all about just ratings and, how quick we pump out these seasons and make them like, gift worthy. Not the same show that I started with. But speaking of like Orange County being the show that I started with, the only recognizable character to me is Kelly Dodd. And Kelly has her flaws, but I kind of enjoyed her at this reunion. Is that bad to say? I don't even really care.
Oh, come on. I guess the "do your pants protect you from a fart" comment, that was a bit much. I mean, it's unfortunate because Kelly is truly a horrible person. And I guess it's always this area where, many of these housewives are truly awful people. But, we're not watching them because they're role models, and we're not watching them because we admire them for any reason. And I think, there's an odd, Bravo has a strange way of kind of addressing this, or what exactly is a fireable offense to them. And there doesn't seem to be a status quo at Bravo around that at all. So I've always loved Kelly just because I love her 80s slang and just, the things she pulls out, hilarious to me. But yeah, she sucks at the same time.
I know. I mean, I liked her going up against Andy. I mean, really, what does he want from her? Like, that's the thing. Like, right or wrong, that's just who she is. And, she did apologize in so many terms. And, like, I mean, that's just, that's it. There's certain people who are just wired a certain way. And I've had to accept this in my own life with, like, families and politics. So, like, yeah, I don't know what they want from her at this point. But speaking of people who arguably could be lousy, Vicki Gunvalson, there's an article over on Reality Blurb. She said on a podcast that she feels like the Beverly Hills girls had a very go away kind of mentality. And name names. She named Lisa Rinna, and she said she would have nothing to say to Erica Jane. And I can totally picture Vicki feeling this way about them. She feels very looked down upon by the Beverly Hills ladies. I feel like Lisa Rinna is one of the worst people out there. Like, I think the ego, just her place on the show, she's just out of control. So I can see why someone like Vicki, she would have no time for her because Lisa's too high on her own horse,
Yeah, I actually agree with Vicki on this as well. There definitely seems to be an aura around the Beverly Hills women that, they are on some pedestal above the other casts. And, it's the way Lisa Rinna acted last season towards Denise Richards was enough for me to, probably put her in my category of least favorite housewives. And just, I guess her dancing on the Instagram, or her trying too hard in every situation and self-producing, that's honestly the worst. It's just, I think we all know that when when housewives try and self-produce or create storylines, it's just never good for anything. And Lisa Rinna seems to have taken, the torch from Vanderpump on that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have someone that's kind of creatively astute and can kind of see what's happening a little bit. Like, not be afraid to kind of nudge the conversation in a certain direction. But she is just like a mean girl, in my opinion. I think she's like a really lousy person. I don't really enjoy her. And I used to be a big Rinna fan. And, by her own behavior, through her own behavior on the show, I have like been turned off. And I don't care for her. And I don't think any of the Beverly Hills women have a place to insert their ego over anyone else. I think they are on a sinking ship, which arguably many people disagree with me, but I think their show is horrible. I think it's creatively dead, and I don't think any of the women really are that important as they believe what they are.
I totally agree. If you look at someone
and
like
neither is Vicki, and neither is Vicki. She's not that important either, but come on.
Oh, no, Vicki isn't. But yeah, if you look at someone like Bethany, who, arguably is probably the most well-known housewife outside of Housewives, she would do some self-producing, but she also would never hold back around sharing things in her private life and really going there in terms of, putting herself out there. Whereas, Lisa and a lot of the housewives on Beverly Hills, they kind of want to have this status outside of the Bravo world, but they're also not really willing to bring the kind of drama and personal aspects that someone like Bethany did.
Yeah. Well, everyone was like applauding and yes queening Andy's baby shower with Lisa Rinna's behavior, jumping up on the table and all that. I denounced all of that on my own. I was like, I wouldn't be spoken to that way. She's using all these words, to get them to dance for him. He made your life and all this stuff. Like, I mean, that to me was like so gross. And like, who made her the MC, by the way? Talk about ego.
She's not that good at dancing either. I don't even get it. Every time I'm like, you're doing the same moves over and over.
But, Vicki would agree with me. Vicki said in this interview, she said, that she felt like it was too much and that it was just, she thought it was messed up how she was just kind of taking over the shower. And, I can agree. I wouldn't want to be spoken to that way. I don't need Lisa Rinna to be the ringleader. And I can get why someone like Vicki, who does walk around with the biggest chip on her shoulder that she created the show, but I can see how she would feel slighted by these women who have come after her. And she even made this a point to crediting herself with all of their personal success because she created it. But, like, I can get why, you were like the first in the door and then you're not showing respect. I get that. But, it really starts from the top, in my opinion. And like, it doesn't help that she was like let go and like put at like a friend of status and stayed in that status. So, Vicki, I don't know what to tell you. It's not the same show, ma'am. It's just not the same show.
If they brought back Vicki, would you consider watching OC again?
Yeah, but I don't see it happening. And I'm wondering, and I'm just putting this out there, and I shouldn't because this is a total conspiracy theory, but it's Grant's Rants. But we're not talking politics. A conspiracy theory that I have is that Shannon and Tamra are still secretly friends and that they are publicly going to this feud so that it can play out on the show and it'll be a way for Tamra to get back on the canvas.
Ooh, that's a good theory. Oh God, Tamra. I don't know if I want to see her back on TV again, but yeah, I would definitely bring back a bit of the original vibe. I mean, this cast has been torture to watch. Someone like Gina has, she's a lovely girl, but she just really has no place on this show. Yeah. And Elizabeth felt very promising, but gosh, she's very insecure. And, a lot of her storyline was, I feel like they didn't explore it until very much the end of the season. And so it was a little bit confusing at the end. Well, what was true, what wasn't true, that didn't feel like it actually got cleared up. But yeah, maybe my feeling is that the show is maybe going to take a break. I think you mentioned this on your last episode, but I think for me, I'm kind of in a Sutton place of let the mouse go with OC.
Yeah, take a break. I think that's a good idea. There's enough housewives on right now. Like, let them reconvene. I've said this about Beverly Hills for a long time, but, they just got to keep these things going because they've got these deals with these production companies. So
I love Below Decks. I don't think you watch that one, but
no,
that's
I
definitely. Once you get into it, I think you'll love it, Grant. It's a really great show. I think it has something that a lot of the other Bravo shows don't, which is kind of looking at the kind of upstairs downstairs vibe of like you get both the rich people and the service people who are working for them, and I think it's the most popular show on Bravo.
It is,
I'm also looking forward to Summer House, I guess, which is coming out in a few weeks. That I kind of just jumped on board last year. I mean, with COVID, all I've had is reality shows. So I've watched them all, and I've kind of expanded now into TLC as well. And the Netflix shows, but I'll take whatever Bravo gives us.
Well, yeah, those Netflix shows, they're definitely stealing the thunder of the Bravo audience and the whole Bravo angle of lifestyle. So, if they want to stay competitive, it's a great big world out there for TV. They've got to catch up. But I am enjoying Salt Lake City, and I want to get your thoughts and opinions on it as well. I had to binge watch 3 episodes. I didn't realize I was so behind, but it was worth it for me. I'll give you my takes on who I like and who I don't. But what do you make of Salt Lake City so far?
Well, Salt Lake City really started out with a bang. It was probably, the best premiere episode of a new city that I've ever seen. So I think everyone got really, really excited about that because I don't think there were super high expectations for SLC. And I think that the casting clearly, what looks like happened was that they had actually filmed with quite a few women, and maybe some of them kind of got dropped off in the final edit. But the ones that they landed with are pretty strong. Maybe for me, I'm a little less of a Lisa and Meredith fan. It took me, many weeks to differentiate them, and still sometimes I have to, she's the one with the 2 kids and she's the one with the tequila brand. But I don't know. For me, obviously, Mary Cosby is a truly unique housewife. Of course, the fact that she's married to her grandfather, but we've also never had a minister housewife, let alone a Pentecostal minister of a church that is, sometimes rumored to be more of a cult than a church. And, from the first episode and the moment where she started dragging Jen's aunt, the amputee, by saying that, she should have drank more water. I've been hooked and fascinated with this woman. Now, she definitely, she isn't a typical housewife, and it looks like she doesn't play well with others. And, it might be that the reason why we've seen her a lot less in the past few weeks. But then also, I'm sure you listened to that horrific rant that she did about her stingy parishioners and being unimpressed with how much money they gave her on her birthday, which might also have something to do with it. But I don't know. What do you think about Mary and how she's kind of dropped off a little bit off the screen in the past weeks?
Well, I did not know that she ranted against her own congregation. Like, that's lousy. She's losing points right there. To me, Mary's been should have been a friend of. I would have been more intrigued to see more of her lifestyle, but she's not participating in any of these events. I was shocked that she didn't go on the Vegas trip.
Yeah,
I thought,
too.
I was like, this is the trip. For all intents and purposes, this is the trip that she should be on. How did she get away with not going? I always thought producers were like, you got to have her. And, it's part of the agreement. But I guess she missed the trip. Maybe there must be another one coming up, I imagine. But this one seems odd to me that she's not there when the rest of them are there. Mary's an interesting character. I want to see more. They need more of her because she seems part-time. Now, Lisa seems like the biggest fool on the show, and I love the way she speaks. So to me, she's instead of disliking her. She's just such a joke to me. And like, I just love to follow her and see what she's going to do next because she's just so put on. I feel like I know a lot of Lisas. So I'm like, you know, I enjoy her when she comes on because I just know it's going to be nothing but like fakery. And my favorite, of course, is Heather. I think Heather's really the most like personable and just like realist on there. And she's like genuinely like just so happy to be a part of the franchise as a viewer herself. Like I feel like she's the voice of the audience.
Yeah, she's definitely got that perfect mix of relatability and aspirational lifestyle that definitely, like, for everyone I know, is she's the most loved of the franchise. For me, she 100% won me over with her flirting techniques at Jen's Sundance party. I could see her definitely writing a guide on how to pick up guys because that was impressive. And, you know, her divorce storyline and the fact that she's moving away from the Mormon church, I think is also very interesting. And yeah, she's lovely. But I guess I also have a soft spot for Whitney. I love her voice. It's like pure sugar.
Yeah,
and,
it is.
You know, I think she has a lot of layers. I think it's interesting, you know, the storyline that's playing out with her father and her family. And, you know, I like that she has a stripper pole and pulls it out at anytime she can, and her dance moves at Jen's party, or Jen's husband's birthday, those were fun.
My biggest problem with the show was Jen. Jen, from what I've learned in therapy, it seems like Jen really needs it. She's addicted to drama, and it's not cute. It's not fun. I feel like she has a lot of problems she has to address. Yeah, I'm totally psychoanalyzing her. I don't enjoy watching her. I wouldn't want to be friends with anyone like that because like there's just no satisfying anyone like her. And I just don't feel too bad for her. You know, I think she's really acting out, and I couldn't be friends with anyone who was so up and down.
Yeah. Jen, you know, I think a lot of people have mentioned that Jen seems like she has watched a lot of Housewives and really came out the gate like with this idea of the persona that she wanted to portray on the show. But on the other hand, she has driven a lot of the drama on the show so far, you know. So without her, I don't know if it would be such a kind of dynamic season. But on the other hand, you know, she's her anger issues are very apparent, and the way she reacts to things, you know, are very over the top. I think it was interesting this week when, you know, Heather and her went on that personal shopping day, and, you know, Heather mentioned, well, you know, did Whitney throw the glass or did you throw the glass? And it's true. I guess, you know, Jen is responsible for how she reacts to things. And if she hadn't reacted so extremely during that party, it wouldn't have been such a disaster. But she's exhausting. For the cast, you know, I'm not convinced Mary will come back. Just based on all of, you know, if you do go check and listen to this audio clip of one of her sermons, you know, it's pretty intense, and it seems like she has a lot of kind of stuff going on. So I'm not exactly sure we'll see her back, but definitely want to see Heather and Whitney and Jen and Meredith. Or not Jen, but Meredith and Lisa.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. The show did get picked up for a second season. I also think that Mary is not going to play the game. I think there's just a lot of rules involved with being on these shows. I don't see her being bothered to do it. I mean, I can't even imagine she had a good season. She's not even appearing in half the scenes. So, like, I can't even imagine why she would want to do it again. So, yeah, I wouldn't blame her for not showing up again. Let's take a look at a few other topics in the second part of this episode, including why Katie Couric is like shunned from being the Jeopardy host. Just this whole thing is ridiculous. I'm going to go on a rant about this, and I'm not even a Katie Couric fan, but I'm just so pissed. And then we're going to talk a little bit about this new Free Britney project that is coming out over on FX. I'm very, very happy to see that this is something that's actually going to happen. And then a little look at Larry King and what this means for TV hosts. That and more coming up next.